Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Mr. Spicoli, you're on dangerous ground here. You're causing a major disturbance on my time.
In 1982, Universal Pictures released what looked like just another teen comedy about mall jobs, parking lot hookups, and kids trying not to fail history class. Fast Times at Ridgemont High had everything you'd expect from an R-rated high school movie. Awkward first times, humiliating summer jobs, and a stoner who ordered pizza to class like it was the most natural thing in the world. But here's what nobody expected. That throwaway teen flick launched 3 Academy Award careers, turned a shoe company into a cultural empire, and got built from the ground up by a 22-year-old who literally enrolled in high school undercover to write it. The director was making her first feature film. The writer had toured with Led Zeppelin as a teenager, and the cast, a bunch of unknowns who would collectively earn 8 Oscar nominations and redefine what it meant to be a movie star in the next 4 decades. Today we're breaking down 15 weird facts about Fast Times at Ridgemont High that prove this movie was never supposed to be just another comedy. And stick around for fact number 1, because it involves fake IDs, real high school cafeteria food, and journalistic ethics that would get you arrested today. But first, hit that like button and subscribe, because it really helps us keep making content about the shows that define TV. Now, let's head to the mall. Number 15, the 3 future Oscar winners nobody saw coming. Universal thought they were making a disposable teen comedy. Hire some hungry young actors, shoot it fast, dump it in August, move on. The casting director wasn't looking for future legends. She needed bodies who looked 17 and could deliver lines about losing their virginity without sounding like they were reading from a teleprompter. Sean Penn showed up to play Jeff Spicoli, the perpetually baked surfer who treated Mr. Hand's history class like an optional beach break. At the time, Penn was just another California kid with good hair.
Relax. All right? My old man is a television repairman. Got this ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
Fast forward to 2009, and he's got 2 Best Actor Oscars on his mantle for Mystic River and Milk. The guy who couldn't show up on time in a movie became one of the most respected dramatic actors of his generation. Forrest Whitaker played Charles Jefferson, the soft-spoken football star who turned into a one-man wrecking crew after someone trashed his Camaro. In 1982, Whitaker was doing guest spots on TV and small film roles. By 2007, he won Best Actor for The Last King of Scotland, playing Idi Amin with such terrifying intensity that you forget he once wore shoulder pads and a Letterman jacket. And then there's Nicolas Cage, barely visible in the background, as one of Brad's fast food colleagues, uncredited, unnamed. By 1996, he won Best Actor for Leaving Las Vegas, 3 Academy Awards, 3 guys who started at a fictional mall food court. Universal wanted cheap talent. They accidentally assembled a future Hall of Fame roster. Number 14, Tom Cruise auditioned and got rejected for being too intense. Before Top Gun made him a fighter pilot and Risky Business turned him into America's most dangerous teenager in underwear, Tom Cruise walked into an audition room for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He wanted to play Brad Hamilton, the senior year king who spends the movie getting systematically humiliated by a pirate costume and a bathroom door with terrible timing. Cruise was 19, fresh off his first role in Taps, and already radiating that locked-in, slightly unhinged energy that would make him the biggest movie star on the planet. He read the sides. He hit his marks. He brought intensity you could feel from the parking lot. The filmmakers passed. Here's why. Brad Hamilton needed to be a loser you could root for, not a guy who looked like he was about to kill someone with his cheekbones. Cruise had leading man written all over him. Brad needed to be the kind of guy who gets laughed at while wearing a Captain Hook costume at a red light. The energy didn't match, so Cruise moved on and became Tom Cruise. Judge Reinhold got the part and turned Brad into the patron saint of every teenager who ever got destroyed by a summer job. Reinhold made you believe that a polyester pirate vest could ruin your entire life. He made humiliation feel universal. One casting decision, 2 completely different timelines. Cruise built an empire playing guys who never lose. Reinhold built a career playing the guy we've all been. Both choices worked perfectly. Number 13. Sean Penn stayed in character for months and made everyone call him Jeff. When Sean Penn showed up to play Spicoli, he didn't just read the script and figure out the character, he became the character, completely, and then refused to stop being the character, the entire shoot. From day one, Penn insisted that the cast and crew call him Jeff, not Sean, Jeff. If you called him by his real name, he wouldn't respond, just stare at you like you were speaking a language he didn't recognize.
Oh, Mr. Han.
What's the reason for your truancy?
Just couldn't make it on time.
According to people on set, it wasn't method acting in the Daniel Day-Lewis sense. It was more like Penn had decided that Spicoli was real, and Sean Penn was the fictional construct. Director Amy Heckerling later said she couldn't tell if Penn was brilliant or if he genuinely lost track of reality somewhere between the audition and the first table read. The performance worked, though. Spicoli doesn't feel like acting. It feels like someone aimed a camera at an actual California surf rat and captured him in his natural habitat. Here's the weird part. Penn went on to become one of the most intense dramatic actors in Hollywood. He's directed heavy political films. He's won multiple Oscars playing deeply serious characters. He's known for being fiercely private and intensely committed to his craft. But to this day, Spicoli remains his most quoted role. "Hey bud, let's party," has outlasted everything else he's done. Penn committed so hard to a stoner character that he created something immortal, and he probably still answers to Jeff somewhere deep in his brain. Number 12, Cameron Crowe, toured with Led Zeppelin, and they still rejected his soundtrack request. You'd think that if you spent your teenage years on a tour bus with Led Zeppelin, writing cover stories about them for Rolling Stone, you'd have a little leverage when you needed a favor. Cameron Crowe learned the hard way that friendship and business don't overlap in the music industry. By 1982, Crowe wasn't some random screenwriter begging for licensing rights. He'd profiled Led Zeppelin extensively. He'd hung out backstage. He'd earned their trust as a journalist. He had history. So, when he started putting together the soundtrack for Fast Times, he naturally wanted Zeppelin on it. Big riffs, California highway energy. The perfect sonic backdrop for a movie about kids cruising the valley in beat-up Camaros. The band said no. Not just no, but absolutely not. In the early 80s, Led Zeppelin guarded their catalog like it was state secrets. No commercials, no random teen comedies. Peter Grant, their notoriously iron-willed manager, didn't care if you'd written glowing reviews or shared hotel rooms on tour. The music stayed locked up. Crowe had to pivot. He found other tracks. The soundtrack still worked. But imagine Immigrant Song blasting over a Ridgemont High parking lot scene. We came this close to getting that alternate reality. Years later, Crowe would direct Almost Famous, a semi-autobiographical film about his time covering bands as a teenage journalist. That movie used plenty of classic rock because by then he had the budget and the clout. But in 1982, even Led Zeppelin royalty got shut down by licensing paperwork. Number 11, Sean Penn picked his shoes and accidentally made Vans a national brand. In 1982, Vans were a regional secret. If you weren't skating Venice Beach or hanging around Long Beach surf shops, you probably had no idea they existed. They were niche footwear for a niche subculture. Skaters wore them, surfers wore them, everyone else wore Nike or Adidas or whatever their parents bought at JCPenney. Sean Penn changed that overnight. When he was building Spicoli's look, he picked black and white checkerboard Vans slip-ons because that's what every surfer he knew actually wore. It was authentic. It was specific. It was perfect for a character who treated shoes as optional and consciousness as negotiable. Then Fast Times hit theaters, and suddenly every teenager in America needed those exact slip-ons. Kids in landlocked states who'd never seen an ocean were wearing them to school. The film gave Vans massive national visibility without anyone planning for it. There's no record of a product placement deal, no corporate sponsorship. Penn just picked the shoes that fit right and accidentally handed Vans a 90-minute commercial. 40 years later, you can still buy the same checkerboard slip-ons at any mall in America. Vans became a billion-dollar global brand. Their success isn't entirely because of one movie, but Fast Times took them from regional curiosity to cultural icon practically overnight. Penn essentially created a piece of wardrobe so memorable that it outlived the movie itself. Every time you see someone wearing checkered Vans, you're looking at Spicoli's legacy. The character lives on through footwear, not bad for a stoner who failed history. Number 10. They filmed inside a real operating mall and shoppers had no idea what was happening. Director Amy Heckerling wanted authenticity. She didn't want some backlot recreation of a shopping mall with fake stores and rented extras. She wanted the real thing: escalators, food courts, the weird echo of 1,000 conversations bouncing off polished floors. So, they shot inside the Sherman Oaks Galleria while it was fully open for business. Which means some of those people you see walking around in the background weren't extras. They were actual shoppers in 1982 who wandered into a film shoot without realizing it.
Dolly Parton giving you a percentage of the profit? What can I do for you, gentlemen?
You the guy with the Van Halen tickets?
Imagine going to buy jeans and accidentally ending up in a movie that would define a generation. Some of those people are in one of the most iconic teen comedies ever made, and they have no idea. The All-American Burger interiors were filmed on a soundstage because they needed control for Brad Hamilton's pirate costume meltdown. But the exterior mall shots, the energy, the vibe, that's real, and the Galleria itself became a character in the film. After Fast Times, every teen movie wanted that fluorescent-lit food court aesthetic. The mall went from shopping destination to cultural landmark. The original Sherman Oaks Galleria got redeveloped in the mid-90s. The architecture changed, the stores changed. The Orange Julius probably costs $9 now and tastes like corporate optimization. But for 90 minutes in 1982, that mall was the center of the teenage universe. Heckerling understood something crucial. You can't fake the feeling of a real place. She captured lightning in a bottle by just pointing cameras at reality and letting it breathe. Number 9, the most iconic song in the movie got left off the soundtrack. There's a scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High that's seared into the cultural memory of everyone who saw it. Phoebe Cates at the pool, slow motion, red bikini, Judge Reinhold's fantasy sequence, and underneath it all, Moving in Stereo by The Cars, creating one of the most memorable music cues in 1980s cinema. You cannot hear that song without your brain immediately conjuring that scene. The two are fused together permanently. It's one of the most iconic music moments in teen movie history. So naturally, when you rush to the record store to buy the official Fast Times soundtrack, the song wasn't on it. Not on side A, not hiding on side B, just gone, completely absent. Due to licensing complications, Moving in Stereo got left off the 1982 soundtrack release, despite being the single most unforgettable musical moment in the entire film. If you wanted the song, you had to buy the Cars' 1978 debut album separately. The principle of the thing is insane. The moment that everyone remembers, the scene that made that song a cultural touchstone, and the studio couldn't get it on the soundtrack. Someone at Elektra Records dropped the ball so hard it's still bouncing. The Fast Times soundtrack sold well anyway. It had plenty of other solid tracks. But every person who bought it expecting Moving in Stereo felt the sting of betrayal. You had one job, record label, one job. 40 years later, that omission still feels like a crime against music supervision. The song lives forever in the movie. It just doesn't live on the official album. Number 8, kids actually started ordering pizza to class after the movie came out. The pizza delivery scene is one of the most quoted moments in Fast Times. Spickily orders a full pizza to Mr. Hand's history class. The delivery guy walks right in, hands over the box mid-lecture.
Who is it?
Mr. Pizza Guy.
Again?
Mr. Pizza Guy, sir.
And Spicoli acts like this is completely normal behavior. No shame, no hesitation, just pepperoni and total commitment. Here's the thing. Before the movie, some kids were already pulling this stunt. Cameron Crowe saw it happen during his undercover year at Claremont High. It wasn't fiction. Real teenagers genuinely called pizza places from payphones and gave classroom numbers as delivery addresses. The absolute audacity of youth. But after Fast Times hit theaters, it became a nationwide epidemic. Suddenly, schools across America were dealing with pizza deliveries showing up to third-period algebra. Teachers spent the entire 1980s intercepting Domino's drivers in hallways and confiscating pepperoni slices like contraband. One movie scene gave an entire generation the same terrible idea at the exact same time. Most of us were too terrified of our own Mr. Hands to even whisper during class, let alone order food. But for the brave few who actually tried it, you're legends. You looked at authority and decided it needed more cheese. The scene works because it's so audacious it feels impossible. And yet, it happened. It kept happening. Teachers had to add no food deliveries to their class rules because teenagers watched Spicoli and thought, yeah, I could do that. One fictional pizza created real chaos. That's the power of cinema. Number 7. Spicoli destroyed a Camaro and started a football revenge plot. In the early 1980s, a Chevy Camaro Z28 was high school royalty. Owning one meant you'd peaked before graduation. Wrecking one meant somebody was going to end you. Spicoli chose violence. The film never shows the actual crash. You just see the aftermath. Charles Jefferson's pristine Z28 reduced to a crumpled mess. And Spicoli panicking because he's about to get murdered by the school's star linebacker. For anyone who spent high school nursing a hand-me-down, Pinto held together by prayer and duct tape.
That guy's gonna totally destroy them, annihilate. You know what I mean?
This was a horror movie, but then comes the cover-up, and this is peak teenage logic. Spicoli blames it on rival school Lincoln High. No forensic evidence, no witnesses, just desperation and a dream. The beautiful part? Jefferson buys it completely. He's so enraged that someone would disrespect his car that he doesn't question the story at all. What follows is one of the most satisfying revenge plots in sports movie history. Jefferson takes that fury onto the football field and destroys Lincoln High like the ghost of his Camaro is coaching from the sideline. Every tackle is personal. Every yard gained is vengeance. He plays like a man possessed. One joyride, one cover-up, one beautiful chain reaction of chaos. And for a generation of car-obsessed teenagers who couldn't afford gas money, you laughed, you winced, and you thanked the universe it wasn't your car getting totaled. The Z28 became a character in its own right. Its destruction launched a subplot that had nothing to do with the main story and everything to do with teenage consequences catching up. Number 6, the 5-point plan, was originally 3 points. If you were a nervous teenager sweating through the spring fling, Mike Damone's 5-point plan wasn't comedy. It was gospel, a roadmap. Scientific methodology for navigating the impossible minefield of high school romance. Here's the twist. In Cameron Crowe's original book, the non-fiction account that became the basis for Fast Times, it wasn't 5 points. It was 3, just 3 simple rules. When they adapted it for the screenplay, someone wisely realized that 3 points didn't have enough comedic weight to support Damone's delusional confidence. So they upgraded it to 5. And Robert Romanus delivered every single point, like he was teaching a graduate seminar at Harvard. Never let on how much you like a girl. Whenever possible, put on side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4. When it comes down to making out, whenever possible, put on side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4.
Comes down to making out. Whenever possible, put on side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4.
Wait, that's the same rule twice. Doesn't matter. Damone sold it with such absolute certainty that we believed him anyway. For about 90 seconds, he makes it sound scientific, airtight, like he's cracked the romantic code of the universe. At least half the audience tried point number 4 at a party. Lean against a wall, nod knowingly, pretend you're exactly where you want to be while standing alone by the punch bowl. Meanwhile, in the actual movie, the plan crashes spectacularly. Damone's relationship advice turns out to be as useful as a screen door on a submarine. But, for one glorious moment, he gave awkward teenagers everywhere something priceless. Completely unearned confidence. People still quote it like peer-reviewed science. Number 5. Amy Heckerling made her directing debut and redefined teen movies. Amy Heckerling was 27 years old when she got handed the keys to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Fresh out of AFI Conservatory, first feature film. A script full of unknowns, R-rated chaos, and enough teenage hormones to make a studio executive sweat through their suit jacket. Most directors would have treated this material like a joke. Crank up the raunch, laugh at the dumb kids, collect a paycheck. Heckerling went the opposite direction. She made you laugh, sure, but she also made you feel something. Brad's humiliation is hilarious, but you ache for him because you've been him. Stacy's confusion feels real. Even Spicoli has moments of unexpected sweetness. That balance, funny without being cruel, is way harder than it looks. Heckerling found something real underneath the comedy.
He was really cute and he read and I liked him a lot and I was still looking. And then I saw him at a restaurant and he had cut all his hair off.
She treated teenagers like actual human beings instead of punchlines. Revolutionary concept. She went on to direct Clueless over a decade later. And the fact that she nailed teenagers in both the 80s and 90s tells you everything about her instincts. 2 different decades, 2 completely different teen cultures, same perfect understanding of what it feels like to be young and confused and desperate to figure it out. But it all started at Ridgemont High. Most debut films get forgotten within a year. Heckerlings became a blueprint for every teen comedy that followed. She proved that you could make something commercial and authentic at the same time. Give a 27-year-old woman a teen sex comedy and watch her turn it into a time capsule. Good thing Universal took the risk. Number 4, Nancy Wilson from Heart played the woman laughing at Brad's pirate costume. There's a small moment in Fast Times that most people don't think twice about. Brad Hamilton sits at a red light, drowning in a Captain Hook uniform that screams, "I lost a bet with destiny." A woman in the next car spots him, processes what she's seeing, and absolutely loses it laughing. That woman is Nancy Wilson. From the heart, as in Barracuda, as in one of the greatest rock guitarists of her generation. Hall of Fame rocker Nancy Wilson. The cameo happened because Wilson was dating Cameron Crowe at the time. When your boyfriend is writing the most talked about teen comedy of 1982, apparently you get pulled into random traffic scenes whether you planned on it or not. They got married 4 years later in 1986, and that relationship kept paying creative dividends for decades. Wilson contributed music to several of Crowe's later projects, including scoring Almost Famous, the semi-autobiographical film about Crowe's teenage years as a rock journalist. That score earned her critical acclaim and proved she could do more than just shred on guitar. So the woman who laughed at Brad Hamilton's worst moment eventually helped create one of the most beloved music films ever made. Not a bad arc for a blink-and-you-miss-it red light cameo. Most extras fade into obscurity. This one went on to win awards and help define the sound of 90s cinema. Brad got humiliated. Nancy got the last laugh. And somewhere in that traffic light scene is a future that nobody saw coming when they yelled, "Action." Number 3. Mr. Hand was based on a real teacher obsessed with his time. Mr. Hand wasn't some creative invention cooked up in a writer's room. He was real. And according to Cameron Crowe's notes, the actual teacher was somehow even more intense about time management than Ray Walston's performance suggested. The real Mr. Hand had one obsession: his time. Not school time, not shared instructional time, his personal time. Every whisper, every distraction, every late arrival was a personal theft from his lifespan. He tracked it, he resented it, and he made sure you knew that you'd stolen something precious every time you showed up 30 seconds late.
Why are you continuously late for this class, Mr. Spicoli? Why do you shamelessly waste my time like this?
When it came time to cast the role, they could have grabbed some red-faced screamer to play the angry teacher archetype. Instead, they cast Ray Walston, a seasoned pro who understood that real authority doesn't yell, it withers. Walston didn't explode at Spicoli. He observed him, paused, delivered lines like a man calmly documenting your failures for future reference. The performance worked because Mr. Hand wasn't evil. He genuinely wanted students to learn U.S. history and stop acting like Woodstock was still happening in the hallway. He had standards. He had expectations. And when Spicoli ordered pizza to his classroom, Hand didn't lose his mind. He just added it to the tab. At 16, when Hand rips up those concert tickets, it feels like tyranny. Looking back, he might have been the only adult in the building thinking long-term. But in 1982, he was the enemy. The buzzkill. The man who couldn't let teenagers just vibe. Number 2, Universal spent $5 million and made back $27 million on a throwaway teen comedy. Universal's strategy for Fast Times at Ridgemont High was simple. Spend about $5 million, hand it to a first-time director, let her make a throwaway teen movie, and hope it breaks even. Modest budget, modest expectations. No stars, no awards ambitions, just skin, angst, and popcorn sales. The studio was convinced that R rating would kill them. Teenagers won't pay to see this, executives said. Parents won't let them in. We're capping our own audience. Meanwhile, Every Gen Xer who wanted to see it found a way. Distracted ticket takers, helpful older siblings, strategic timing. We got creative. The movie ran in theaters and made over $27 million domestically, more than 5 times its budget. Teens lined up. They snuck in. They dragged friends back for second and third viewings. An R-rated teen comedy with no major stars, made for pocket change by Hollywood standards, outperformed movies with 10 times the marketing budget. Universal got a massive return on investment. We got a cultural touchstone, and the industry learned a valuable lesson. If you treat teenagers like actual humans with real problems instead of punchlines, they'll throw money at you. The Modest Gamble basically rewrote the rules for teen comedies. Studios realized you didn't need a massive budget or established stars. You needed authenticity. You needed actors who felt real in situations that rang true. You needed someone behind the camera who actually remembered what it felt like to be 17 and terrified. 5 million in, 27 million out. Not bad for a movie nobody expected to matter. Number 1, Cameron Crowe enrolled in high school, undercover at age 22. Most writers research a screenplay by reading books, conducting interviews, maybe visiting locations for reference. Cameron Crowe enrolled in high school, not as an observer with a clipboard, as a student. In 1979, the 22-year-old convinced the principal at Claremont High School in San Diego to let him pose as a senior under the fake name Dave Cameron. 1 full year, real classes, actual cafeteria food, pep rallies, parking lot drama, everything. This wasn't some bored journalist fishing for a magazine piece.
It was your life kind of drifts into the movie of your life. You want to perform correctly as yourself in the movie of your life.
Crowe had already toured with Led Zeppelin at 16 and written for Rolling Stone as a teenager. He'd hung out with rock gods and decided the real story was hiding in suburban hallways and mall food courts. He soaked up everything, the gossip, the hierarchies, the kid who genuinely ordered pizza to class mid-lecture. Every conversation documented like field notes from an anthropologist embedded in enemy territory. That's why Fast Times doesn't sound like adults guessing at teenage dialogue. It was lifted from actual conversations in actual hallways. When the book came out, students at Claremont finally realized what happened. That quiet older kid who never said much in the homeroom had been documenting their entire lives. Spicoli existed because Crowe met real surfer burnouts. Brad Hamilton came from watching actual teenagers get humiliated at summer jobs. Most 22-year-olds were figuring out rent. Crowe was building a time capsule that would launch Oscar careers, redefine teen comedies, and give us a movie we're still quoting 4 decades later. All because one guy raised his hand in a high school he had no business attending and said, "Yeah, I'm Dave, I'm new here." And there you have it. From undercover journalism to accidental shoe commercials to 3 future Oscar winners starting their careers in a mall food court, Fast Times at Ridgemont High was never just another teen comedy. It was a cultural earthquake disguised as a stoner movie. Think about it. A 22-year-old posed as a high school student and turned those observations into a screenplay that accidentally launched a footwear empire, created the template for every teen movie that followed, and gave us characters we're still quoting 40 years later. Sean Penn never stopped being Spicoli. Judge Reinhold made polyester pirate costumes a symbol of universal humiliation. And Amy Heckerling proved that a first-time director could turn raunch into something real. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Fast Times at Ridgemont High, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more behind-the-scenes stories about the movies that shaped a generation. Until next time, thanks for watching.